before the days of reaction videos too.
Yeah.
Because now there's so many reaction to this videos on YouTube, and there was this video of a guy in the subway listening to our song, going nuts. Like he just had his earbuds in, and then and he just like this.
Well, we reworked the whole chorus of the song we're saying. We worked the chords of that.
And we're not like as strict with ourselves anymore either.
Yeah.
Like, we're not, like we were always kind of like a little bit out of the pigeonhole genre wise. But like we used to really, really try and be so strict with ourselves about being like, this has to be like psychobilly, or this has to be like, yeah. I don't know, and now it's just like we're a lot more loose with that. And we're like, well,
we listen to different stuff in psychobilly, and we want to
That's exactly what I mean by adding to your sound and making it mature.
Like, yes, we're an upright bass-driven band, so how non-rockabilly and psychobilly can you be? Except when you don't have. I mean, I sometimes write songs with a 1-4-5, but it's not all the time,
right?
And how once you venture away from 1-4-5 and you get a little bit more adventurous with your chords, and adventurous with your melodies, and adventurous with subject matter.
Yeah.
And we used to, I used to be not as willing to add vocal harmony and stuff because I didn't want stuff to sound too polished. I wanted it to sound more raw. And now it's like, I think there's room for vocal harmonies. Like,
I always like the vocal.
Yeah, did I say melodies before? What I meant to say was vocal harmonies.
It's okay.
No, I love vocal melodies.
It's
very
early
important.
in the morning for you. It's only it's afternoon for me.
It's early. It's early here. Yeah. We had a rehearsal last night.
But no, vocal harmonies. To me, I always I listen to a lot of music with vocal harmonies. I mean, Beatles, all like the 50s vocal groups.
Yeah.
Cheap Trick, the Cars, all the 70s power pop. There's tons of vocal harmonies. That music would not exist without them.
And I can appreciate that, but sometimes I feel like when it was some of the over the top things with the falsetto harmonies, Beach Boys kind of stuff. Sometimes
I love that.
Sometimes that used to
that
drive
worked
me nuts.
for that kind of music because it was written for that kind of music. Whereas when you was talking about deviating from the typical 1-4-5, it's really cool because when it comes to psychobilly, you can throw in those elements of what we, our old punk rock writings that we used to do. You take a riff and then you figure out what key that riff is in and what can I move around this riff to center around it instead of really worrying about the traditional chord changes. And I think that's two different ways of approaching music.
Well, I mean, punk rock, the Ramones are all 1-4-5.
Oh yeah.
But even then, it's just but the word punk rock is such a especially nowadays, it's such a broad term.
No one knows what that means. It's so broad.
Yeah, exactly. It's an attitude.
I think
it's an attitude. It's a fashion. It's a music. It's a this and that.
I think the 70s, 70s Ramones, Clash, Sex Pistols, the first couple of Jam records. Who's the one I was listening to most recently? Richard Hell and the Voidwoods. That first album's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's classified as punk, but it's got so much more going on to it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even
television.
You get that. Yeah, you get that nice fine line between garage rock, punk rock, and just all the stuff that I call CBGB adjacent.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Blondie, who was a pop group,
yeah,
they were a CBGB. Did they really play punk rock? No, it was straight up pop music.
We were just go ahead. No, we were just reminiscing about before we were actually in a band together, playing at CB's years ago with the first band I ever played upright bass in, and Bobcat's old band, the Devil Spades. We were opening for a band called The Merry Widows.
They were on tour from San Francisco.
Yeah.
And
great band.
Next thing you know, their bass player moves to the East Coast got married to a friend of mine, and they have a band now called the Gunsmokers, who we're playing with on...
They went down and played at Johnny Love's Pie Shop down in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that place. I love it, yeah.
He loves pie shop.
The Dangerously Delicious Pies?
Yeah. I think Johnny Love is episode 4 on here.
Okay.
Fucking A. I'm playing with them in Baltimore April 7th, actually.
Killer!
Oh, yeah.
They're the Gunsmoke Sinners. She moved there, and as you were saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, turns out I was friends with them.
Yeah. I remember loaning my bass to her that at that show back then. And I
remember the exact date. It was June 29th, 2005.
So good at that.
I remember that date.
Classic Bobcat.
June 29th, 2005. We all played CBGBs. First of all, my old band, the Double Six, that was one of our best shows. The sound there, the two big venues in New York were CBGBs and the Continental. They had phenomenal sound, and I remember sounding good that night. And then the last time we opened up for the Meteors, also.
That was the Continental.
The Continental show. August 24th, 2006. That was like, we didn't even have Johnny at that
wasn't 2007?
No, it was 2006.
You sure?
Johnny wasn't even in the band yet. We weren't the ARKHAMS as we.
Yeah. Yeah, we were still.
We're still in embryonic form. We were doing.
We hadn't even written song "Insane" yet.
Yeah, Road to Arkham.
Road to Arkham.
We didn't have. No, we had one instrumental that night. Now our set is about a quarter instrumental, at least. And to think that night it was mostly vocal driven. I was singing pretty much all the songs.
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah.
That was before I could sing and play at the same time.
That changed shortly after that show.
Yeah.
I remember listening to it. It was kind of loose. It was just thrown together. It wasn't like, I think we at that point had a total of 10 rehearsals and maybe 5 to 10 shows. So how polished could we have been on that show?
So we were just saying that it's just funny because, it's just coincidental that I know the Gunsmoke Sinners are like just starting out.
I played their first show with them on Long Island,
and they're getting to open for the Meteors, similar to the way that we were fortunate enough to get that same opportunity years ago. And
seeing a band like that, hey, you know what? We have our band stuff that we have musically that sets them apart. They got 2 upright bass players.
Yeah.
They
double bass in that band.
Double bass.
Yeah. It's
kind of
cool
to make out what they do live, and the recordings sound good, but it's gonna be interesting to listen to that band progress.
Yeah, I would almost automatically be interested in spending some time in the studio, even offering to help produce them, just to figure out how to make 2 upright basses work.
Yeah, well, there's a Supremes record.
Yeah, I feel like it's they do it in orchestras all the time. But
there's this one Supremes record.
Style.
I forget which one. I think it's Back of My Arms Again, where you hear James Jamerson, the legendary bass player, go boom, 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 and then they had another bass player, not a baritone guitar, because you'd hear it differently, but another electric bass player, probably playing another P bass or something. Bum 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 on the G and the D string. And then James Jamerson, they did that a lot on Motown records. There was 3 guitar players on every Motown record, and yet you barely hear one. There was one guy just handling the back.
Just locked in with the snare.
One guy just handling the riffs, and one guy just handling the fills and the transitions. And it's so tight and polished that it sounds like one player. Yet when I try to do it, and the whole nature of a one-man band is to try to cram as much into just those 6 strings. I tune my guitar C to C because of the one-man band. Try to get that is tough. When you try to isolate the guitars on a Motown record and try to hear oh my God, there's no way one guitar player can handle that, or even 2. You need 3 players. And that's why you listen to any Temptations record, any Supremes record, any Smokey and the Miracles record. there's 3 guitars, and yet you can barely hear one, yet miss the other 2 when they're absent. My Girl, that song has 3 guitars. You just think the guitar is going bum 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 bum, but that's actually 3 guitars. Bum 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 bum.
And that like that's the way that Bobcat like even like works in the studio and writes music.
Right, right.
He's able to like sometimes I don't even hear it when he plays one part, you know, and you're just like, what is that? And it's like, no, trust me, this will make sense.
Just
give
me time.
And he plays the second part, and I'm like, okay.
And it's like not even sounds that.
And I'm like, could you just try playing it the way that you played it in practice? And he's like, no, I am, trust me.
Yeah, but
it's so much better up here if I can do it the way I want. Trust me.
Yeah. And then I hear it played back, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, okay, you were right.
Yeah,
wow, I can't even.
It sounds like one guitar.
Yeah,
but there's no way one guitar can do that. There's like, I like to have an acoustic track. I like to have a clean track. I like to have a fuzz guitar track. I like to have like, I got this pedal that makes a guitar sound like an organ.
Yeah.
And I like to use that all. It enhances the music. It like, you have an organ and it completely takes you out of this genre. It takes you out of the whole, definitely takes you out of rock. There's no 50s records, other than a few Buddy Holly records that have organ on. You know, it takes you out of psychobilly. Yes, garage rock has a lot of organ, a lot of that Farfisa sound. But I rarely use that sound. I like the Hammond sound. I gravitate towards like, you know, the fatter organ sounds that you hear on like a Jimmy Smith record, you know, like, you know, and it's all about like the voicings and how it interplays with bass, so that you're hearing it and you're hearing it against what he's playing. It's like, oh, okay, there's like a whole organ trio going on, and there's a whole like, you know, like a twangy, jangly guitar thing.
Right,
and then there's overdrive, and then there's fuzz. But when you layer that all together, it sounds like something fun and interesting. But you hear them all together, you're like, what the? How does?
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. With all these cool sounds that you're experimenting with, and with the idea that you don't want to keep your new music as the ARKHAMS like strictly, you know, just adhering to psychobilly, are you finding more of these influences that you're putting in your regular one-man music finding its way into the ARKHAMS music?
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Or it's actually a handful of songs that didn't make the ARKHAMS because they're either too garage rock sounding, too power pop sounding, too soul, like, you know, 60s soul sounding, for it to really, or they're just so like electric bass friendly. You know, there's a bunch of songs that, you know, on my one-man band records, I don't do it, you know, simultaneously.
I'm so happy that you have that outlet now too, and that those songs, you know, that I don't have to say like that I don't want to do that song. You know? Not that I don't like them at all. And again, it's
just
like
so
also like
left field.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I'm actually way more open-minded in that sense too.
It's crazy because,
but you know, whereas like 15 years ago, it would have been like nope, you know, but again, not because I don't like them. I think it's great, and you know, I really like your 2 records, and yeah, you know, I might jump up and do a couple of songs with him.
And I'm very against. I'm usually very against like bringing someone on the road with me. He's the only person I would bring because we've already been on the road together.
Yeah, I mean, y'all have done it together. The stuff that he does with Lara, I mean, he's just a road dog. He can handle it. A lot of people go out there and they lose their mind. They don't understand.
Like, people are like, who's playing drums with you on tour? I'm like, I'm playing drums with my feet, and maybe 2-3 tours down the line after, you know, I'm not saying the Lega tour. I'm saying like tours.
Right.
First leg tour goes goes until May 22nd, my birthday. But the second leg of tour begins May 23rd, and it goes through September 22nd, which is when I'm booked on Long Island next. I thought that was going to be the end of it, except I linked up with a band from Mississippi called the Bearded Chieftains. And they're like, we want to tour and we want to come out that way.
They're like the Chieftains, but with beards. I'm sorry, I don't know anything. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just think it's funny. I was just like,
they're like, there's this garage
like
band
the Irish
from
band, but did they not? Did they not have beards? Did the original Chieftains not have beards? Maybe they did. No, probably not.
I'm trying to think. The Chieftains, they were an Irish cut. They were probably very clean cut.
Yeah, they're probably. I'm pretty sure they were clean shaven. There might have been like somebody with like some mutton chops.
Yeah, with Argyle sweaters.
With tan, just cheap colored sweaters. Only cheap colored.
Yeah, they looked. I'm sure they looked their time. I know they had hits in the 50s.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. No. I grew up listening to a lot of Irish music, and speaking of bands that evolved, oh man, Larry and his Flask, that band.
Yeah.
They started off as like an Irish punk band, and then evolved into so much more. Man, they're just one of the coolest bands that have come out in the roots music, anything, I don't even know what genre you call them anymore.
They're one of those.
They're different bands.
They're one of those bands that I put there with Shack Shakers, where it's just.
Shack Shakers don't sound the same record to record.
Every song is going to be different than the last song. Every record is going to be different than the last record, and I think that Larry and his Flask is definitely a band that does that too. And from what it sounds like, what's about to be happening with y'all, you're going to get into that territory too. With
we're gonna get that. I mean, we have so many different influences and different songwriting styles that there's not one thing that we can say, oh yeah, this is
I really can't wait to hear that stuff. If you're going to be playing, actually, you're probably going to be playing upright bass on it, really staying away from the electric stuff, like you were saying. You have a extremely unique custom-made bass. How'd you come about that, man?
Well, I designed it and helped build it, and honestly, my friend of mine who builds guitars, it was just he found me on Facebook after years and was like, "Hey, I build guitars now, kinda. If you ever want to build anything," and I'm like, "Yo, I have this idea for an upright bass that I've been kicking around for a while. Maybe we could do that," and we did. But anyway, the design itself. It kind of looks almost like a coffin, but it's not quite.
Not a coffin base.
Yeah,
it's not.
That wasn't the intent.
We don't want to be the second coming of the Necromancer. I love those guys. But I don't want to. They mastered the coffin base.
That was never my thing. But
a travel friendly base, yes.
It's kind of the shape is a knockoff of the old milling portabate from the 60s or so. I think it was one of those like catalog instruments or maybe like a World's Fair thing. And they made cellos in a similar shape too, called the Nilling Portacello. They're really hard to find. They're not very good. And Nilling,
I remember my old bass player Brett used to have.
Yeah, Brett had a remake. Brett had a weird, a remake of a Nilling.
We found at some pawn shop outside of Atlanta.
Right, and so his was even like a rebuild. So for years I was trying to find even the person who built Brett's bass,
which was impossible to find.
And we stumbled across a real Nilling one time when we were playing a show randomly in Missouri.
I remember that.
And then after that I was like, wow, this is a cool design. I would love to do it. I was like, it's not quite a coffin, but and I thought that the straight angle lines would be more builder friendly. I was because I was like, oh, then we don't have to steam wood and bend it and whatever. Turns out that building it with 8 corners was also a giant pain.
It's a long octagon.
Yeah.
But a lot of, when you think of on right base, there's not one thing that it should be. Every time, steam corner, that's another thing that can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, why not just take the Fender style electric guitar, idea to an upright bass? You want to be able to travel with it. You want to be able to, stay in tune, get any sound you want, and the whole thing is traveling with it, and
I mean, space.
You upright bass. I'm looking right now at a beautiful Upton bass. But I remember you need a full van. You can't take a minivan. You can take a Suburban.
Yeah.
On tour with that and a drum set.
And my bass, my bass fits sideways in a van.
Yeah.
It fits. It fits in the back of a larger sedan, back seat, without having to do that front seat thing
the neck still has to come through the front two seats and almost hit your gear shift. That's essential as a bass player to learn how to drive.
His wife's.
You just rest your arm on it. Yeah, exactly.
his wife's grandmother gave her the like an old, not old, it's about 16
it's 20 years old.
Oh, it's 20 years. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It was kept nice and it doesn't look 20 years old.
Yeah.
But
we could fit our duo in this sedan, and normally we have a tour van, we have a Suburban.
It's essentially a Camry. It's a Lexus is a Camry, but it's a nice one, and it's nice to see, nice to know, because I own a Camry. I went from owning 17 cars in 2020, right as the pandemic happened, and then because
of the car service, not just
not because
Bobcat rolling his big.
Yeah, just like I just woke up one day and they were just on my lawn.
Yeah.
No, but they're like nice cars used by my drivers, and when the pandemic happened, I usually like to give my guys a bonus. Hey, you've been doing good. Hey, here's an extra $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
When they book out with me like for a week with like anywhere between $500 and $1,000. I like to say, hey, thank you very much for doing a good job. Thank you for taking care of my clients. Here's an extra couple of bucks. Well, the fact that they were booking between 100 and 200 a day means, back then they were splitting, 50 or 100 and going home with, $30 for a 12-hour day. And the only way I was thinking like, oh yeah, I can keep cars and constantly, or just give them to my guys. And you know what? They're worth it. And it's just a matter of trust. Like, hey, I trust them 100% that when the time comes to just hand it over, I just hand it over. And that's one of the things. That's one of the key factors. I had to own cars. No way I'd be able to revisit music as intently as I did.
Mm-hmm.
It would have taken another 5 to 10, maybe years to be able to get to that point. But because I was able to say, hey, listen, people were very trustworthy. And I know that with me giving them the car, they'll be happier. It'll make up for all the money they did not earn during the end of March through June of 2020. You got to think about it. They could buy a car, spend 10, 15, 20, prices went up after that.
Yeah.
Then, you can't get a decent used car for under $10,000 these days.
No.
Well,
no.
I don't see it.
Taxi talk with Bobcat. All right.
Taxi talk.
You know what? Giving away the cars made it so that, okay, I could look around for a studio who would want to record my one-man bands. I could, on Long Island, it's 3 hours from here, hour and change from the city. I didn't want to travel just to record, and I ran into Steve, who actually lives in my town. And every week religiously on most weeks it's Tuesday. This week it's a Wednesday, but religiously, because I have a bunch of back catalog material. ARKHAMS have about 15, 20 songs in back catalog.
We did this marathon session for a supposed third album years ago.
We did 2 marathon sessions.
Yeah, we did. But the first one was just like the engineer just kind of fell off the face of the earth or whatever with the recordings, and
and it wasn't even very good. It was
and
really,
it was like one day that was just like somebody's studio in Jersey. Then we went to
Chicago.
To our friend's studio, and
that was a little bit better.
We did a whole weekend, but it was like we flew in there, and it was just like, and we played some shows while we were there, but we just like, it was just we rushed through everything, and and again we were using borrowed gear.
I remember Sean actually drove there with his girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And
and
I remember them driving my gear over there.
Yeah. Okay.
Did Johnny also? No, he flew with us.
Yeah, he flew with us. I remember that.
Yeah, but I remember they had his guitar and amp.
Okay, because was Sean on tour with another band, maybe?
Other Men.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But that's why I think
actually, oddly enough, like I was on tour just hanging out with Lara's band Tiger Piss like a year after that, and I went and I retracked all of my bass when we passed through Chicago.
Oh wow!
I had an afternoon and was just like, I went to Mickey's studio and I retracked all of my bass, and like still, even like after like getting those mixes, it was still just like, it was just our like original recordings, because we didn't used to record to a click.
Yeah.
Oh.
The first song we recorded
that was
to a
not
click.
necessarily our wishes.
Right.
We would have.
The first song we recorded to a click was Evil Money, which came about 3 years ago. No, 4 years ago. And I was actually the happiest with that song, even though musically speaking, that's miles away. It's got a second line New Orleans.
It's got like a parade beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can say there's no other song in Psychobilly with that rhythm, or in our genres. There's no other song in garage rock. It's more of a heavily like garage rock song with upright bass. Yet there's not one song I can point to that has like that second line. And we played it last night with our drummer and with Lara on second guitar. It sounded good. It sounded rocking, but it had that groove, that rhythm, and it was fun. It was. I was really happy with what I heard, as was everyone else. This is something unique.
Yeah, our rehearsal went great last night. We have Joe Morgan playing drums for us.
Pitchfork Militia.
From a band called Pitchfork Militia. It was a local band around here that I've been a fan of for
very prolific
a long time. They've been around for almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And,
they got what, like 15, 20 albums out?
Yeah, they literally.
And Peter Head does
so many albums.
Does solo stuff.
Yeah, my friend Peter Head.
Yeah,
he's runs that band.
He is no joke, and they played last summer. They played in the backyard.
Yeah,
right here.
Yeah. And now I actually play bass for that band.
He plays 5-string electric.
Yeah, I play a bass guitar in that band.
Like
for
really
90% of the set.
Yeah, really like bright sounding jazz bass.
Twangy like cowpunk kind of stuff.
Yeah.
On the bass though, it sounds cool. It sounds. Yeah. I feel like that bass line sounds one step away from baritone guitar, and maybe 2 steps away from like. In my mind, the bass playing is always was on my mind is like that James Jamerson key bass stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How it's like, so it's a bass and it's so bass heavy,
right?
It's so like low mid heavy that you hear it and like, it shakes the room. I remember playing what was that band? Remember when Mr. Action and the Boss Guitars played the luau? I played through your bass rig.
Yeah.
Through your upright bass rig. Upright bass rig was like 800 watts. I'm used to, electric bass. You can get away with 100 watts.
Right.
I remember turning up that bass more than halfway and going, "Holy shit! This is 4 bass lines ever used before." Because it was 800 watts, a 4x10, really meant for an upright bass. Where upright bass needs that. Not anymore, because now, now we learned how to reskin our drum heads to not sound crazy. Both me and Lara play out of a 1x8 box Pathfinder practice amp. But we thought it. We're like, I'm happy. I'm touring with a 1x8 Vox Pathfinder amp. How many other people can say that?
If it gives you the tone you want, it doesn't matter because you just put a microphone on it.
It sounds like an EC30. I put a better speaker. They had one and I blew the speaker, so I replaced it with one of those good Webers, like the blue little pup Webers, and I'm like, this sounds 99% of the way to my old AC30 that we toured with. It was so fragile and so big.
That's kind of man. That's a really cool hack. You know, I was just thinking, a lot of people that are listening to this or watching this probably don't know it, but your music was in a video game.
That's true, yeah.
How'd that happen?
Yeah. Well, some other bands that we knew, like when it was in production, I think the software company was a smaller company out of Canada, I believe, that was initially in charge of it, or who in its initial inception. And they had like some of our friends' bands on the soundtracks.
Yeah, they had like Knock Alley West,
and like the Gutter Demons were on there, and I think like not the Creep Show. Was the Creep Show on it?
Show Creeps, I think.
Yeah. And then, but yeah. Anyway, it was just like there were already a couple of bands that we knew, so like they, I forget, like one of the bands that was on there. I think that the programmers, the Hypnophonics were on there, and the software developers or whoever was in charge or whoever was their liaison was like, do you know more bands like this? And then the other bands just like dropped our name, and then they contacted us, and we went through with it, and it was interesting because that was was that around like 2010, 2009, 2010.
We were able to tour,
and the interesting thing was like back then, even the voiceover actors in the games like weren't getting paid very well, and I think the actress in that game was Eliza Dushku, I think, was the one who did the voice of the main character. The game was like it was like almost like a Kill Bill kind of a storyline, and with like almost like a little like Tarantino-esque with its like cinematography sort of. The gameplay was sort of like Tomb Raider. It was like a third person, jumping, clanging, shooting, slashing.
Definitely had the Quentin Tarantino vibe, which is Quentin Tarantino.
So our song "Insane" was in the end of like the boss like round of the first level of the game. So everybody who played that game
has heard "Insane,"
heard that song, and that in that level it takes a while to even figure out how to get through it, and so it plays on a loop, So, but yeah, like back to, like people heard it. And I remember seeing, like, I wish I could still find this video. There was this awesome, it was like, oh man, before the days of reaction videos too.
Yeah.
Because now there's so many reaction to this videos on YouTube. And there was this video of a guy in the subway listening to our song, going nuts. Like he just had his earbuds in, and then and he just starts like flailing around on the subway. And it was this guy who clearly was not like a scene person at all.
He
was
know
just like
who
a
the
normal
hell
dude,
Yeah, he was. I think it was a New York City subway.
Yeah, it was on the New York City subway. So it was like he didn't know that we were living. And
we
in
were
the city.
busking the New York City subways around that time.
I mean,
we were literally begging for money on the subway. With our songs.
And the songs that this guy would have heard and known that song.
Yeah,
we weren't really doing that song though. We were doing like, your traditional rockabilly, traditional like R&B song.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were busking, but so yeah, back to the game though. So yeah, like in the contracts there weren't like, there was no like money or maybe residuals or anything like that promised.
It didn't matter.
It was free, and it didn't matter, and we were just like we just want the music to get out there.
Yeah, we wanted people to hear our music.
Yeah, it's a great way.
And
off
like
that soundtrack.
Like I have a brother that's 13 years younger than me, and I remember I made him a compilation CD back when you did that, and it was back in the time of like the Tony Hawk games, and I remember he recognized a couple songs that I put on there, and I was like, how the fuck did you know that? And he's like, oh, from Tony Hawk Pro Skater, 5 or whatever. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. And then at that point I was like, ooh, like that's a great angle. So and that happened to be like right around, pretty close to around the time that we did that. And it was like yeah, let's do it for free. We gave away our first album for free on BitTorrent years ago. And that got us fans in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like I'm totally fine with that, because it's like, again, it's like, like commodifying music is such a difficult thing to do, and it seems so ridiculous. And
I feel like if you're putting out a strong product, that people will gravitate to it.
Right. You don't have to trick them.
Right. But more on that later, because I have a whole spiel.
like if you can put out a good product, hey, some of the best records, the Big Star records. Big Star was nothing in the 70s, and they put out the most, 2 of the most perfect. Everyone says 3, I say 2, because I'm not a big fan of the third album. But number 1 hit record, Radio City, their albums went nowhere in the 70s. It was until the late 80s when the band Replacements did the song Alex Chilton, the singer of Big Star, that that people started going, oh, Big Star, yeah. And then the important bands of like the 90s definitely had a Big Star influence. All of a sudden, everyone started knowing who Big Star was and caring about them. So
you mean they became big stars?
Big stars, yeah. Had a number 1 hit record, which is the title of their first album. And I'm like, if you put out something good, if you just work on your craft, consistently release good music, no matter what it is, all right, it may take a year, it may take 5 years, just consistently put it out, consistently promote it,
right,
get it out there, talk to people about it. It's not like people will never care about the music.
Well, one of the best
it's the quitters that never, you write. I was listening to some. We're all in the process of writing our own success story. And they're very jagged lines. Like, I didn't think anything that I did playing music fit into the Cavs until I was like, oh, okay. And then with the Cavs, back to the music. And now with like about to go on tour for 11 months, I mean, it makes people look at the schedule like, how the hell are you gonna do that? Like, hey, I plan out where I gotta be. Okay, Viva Las Vegas. I wanted so badly to play Moonrunners. He said he's gonna put me on 2024, which I'm excited about. Ooh. But then I was like, I gotta get to Moonrunners, because even if I'm not on it, there are bands I want to see that day. Mm-hmm. Then the next leg, it's just like the first one after they said, oh no, we're booked in April. We do another day. Oh yeah, how's July 19th? I'm in Texas in July. It's not going to be the greatest time ever, but you know what? It's something to experience. I learned, from doing that and watching YouTube videos about like different places. I'm like, all right, this is what this place like. Mm-hmm. And, this is West Texas, this is New Mexico. This is, Dallas. Dallas is different. Well, when we played Dallas, that was, we played like a college frat house and we didn't think anything of it. And now I'm seeing there's stuff going on in Dallas that I wasn't aware of 14 years ago. And I'm excited about it.
It ebbs and it flows.
We go through there.
It's happening in one city one moment, then the next moment it's happening in another city. And the best thing we can do is just contour the tour schedules around to the cities that are happening and keep away from the ones that are going under.
Yeah.
Well, even the cities that are going, they always say, oh, the Midwest is going under, Midwest is going under.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes some places that are, that are, that are more, I don't know, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, like sometimes places that are less fortunate, like sometimes people.
No, I agree.
More.
Look at Detroit. I mean,
when I say going under, I think of cities that got a little too big for their britches. And
it's almost like the opposite. It's almost like places that have like too much success or whatever become less like, you just I don't know, you become less useful or relevant or something.
Think of
people are so distracted and wrapped up in their own stuff.
Think of our Michigan gigs in Detroit. Everyone, you turn on the news and you say, "Oh, Detroit." It's musically. We've played some of our better shows in Detroit and Michigan and Chicago. People always say, "Oh, Chicago is so much crime." If you go looking for it, you'll find it.
St. Louis.
St. Louis, they always say.
For sure.
Yet, whenever we played St. Louis, that was a
we broke our own fan in St. Louis.
I remember that night. It was New Year's Eve. We were at Club Deluxe, and we didn't even need someone to do it for us.
Cold. You slam the door and it's smashed.
Oh my Lord!
We had this big purple. You rode in my van once, actually. We had this big purple 2005 Chevy Express van, right, where the doors were fucked up. The hinges on the back side, I remember, didn't close correctly, and there was always a draft. You remember that? Especially when we drove through Wisconsin and Minnesota that one night. Well, it was like blizzard. 20 degrees below zero, 3 feet of snow on the ground. Show in Minneapolis canceled. We didn't leave Chicago because we thought, it'll take 3-4 hours. No. It takes 7 hours to get from Chicago to Minneapolis under perfect. It took us 11 hours. Going like maybe 10, 15 miles an hour down I-94 in the snow. He drove it.
That was nuts.
And then that night, we stayed
stopping every hour to just dip ice off of the front, off of the windshield wipers, and even just the grill, because it was just like the whole entire front, like the headlights would start to dim so much because the ice was just building up so badly on the front.
And no one else was on the road. It was like just driving getting close enough behind a tractor trailer that you can drive in their tracks,
but just don't get caught up in like the actual jet on the side of them. We did a run where we went from Ohio down to I think it was Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, all in one day, and it was during a horrible blizzard. It looked like in The Shining, you know how you see Chuck's jackknifed on the side of the highway and stuff? It was one of those. And the heat wasn't working, so Dalton and Lon had to have their feet underneath them, just sort of sitting on their feet in order to keep them warm. Yeah. And then we managed to get through, and we get to the gig. And it happened to be on Valentine's Day, and the venue already did a murder mystery dinner. So everybody had already ate and drank, and I was ready to go home and celebrate Valentine's Day. And then we show up after all this shit, and there's 5 people in the crowd. It's this job is the best.
5 people in the crowd, and they're like, "We just solved a murder. What are you gonna do? Play some songs?"
Hey, that's the thing though. Like these places in the winter that have, they actually have infrastructure for the winter. Like I went out, about 3 weeks to a month ago, and I was originally thinking about Erie, Pennsylvania, which is all the way on the lakes, probably the coldest part of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's a cold state, but you go Erie, anyone going to be at this? And there were people at the show. Same thing with Cleveland. I didn't think Cleveland in the winter. Then as I was booking the tour, I was like, all right, I do want to go to all these upper Michigan, upper Wisconsin, upper Minnesota, North Dakota, Montana, all these upper states. But you can't hit
northern.
Northern.
Northern, if you're not looking at, if the world's not flat to you.
Right.
all these northern states. I want to hit them.
Bobcat's not a flat earther. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I'm not. But you go to these northern states, now I think winter, you just toggle the south. Summer, you toggle the north. But I'll be in Texas in July, and I was in Erie in February. But they actually do have those, and people come out because they have the infrastructure. Same thing I learned about Minneapolis. They do have stuff in the winter.
They're used to it.
They're used to it. Especially Canada. Hey, we play Canada.
Yeah, it's the places that they're not hit by unawares, like Georgia, for example. When Georgia gets maybe 2 inches when they get snow, it's just Armageddon. I've experienced it from living in Tennessee as well. Yeah, Tennessee as well.
Yeah, I remember being in Charleston. In Charleston, the Walmart was closed.
I grew up in Ohio, so
that was like pre-pandemic when before when they were just always open everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was never 24/7 because they have.
Well, most of them are. A lot of them are. Yeah, not all of them because I've slept in a lot of their parking lots. You can sleep in their parking lot.
That's right.
It's open 24 hours, but if they close, they will kick you out.
That sounds about right. Like Walmart's, they have so much logistics and infrastructure that, at least the ones by me, plus Long Island, I feel like a good community shuts down by 10, but most places shut down by like 7, 8 o'clock. There's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's here in Germany. Everything closes by 8 at night, except for a few bars and restaurants. Oh, yeah, like they roll the streets up, man. Sundays, everything is closed.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because religious.
Just because
in Israel,
they just take a break. Like all of society is we're gonna take a day, and we're gonna they encourage you to not vacuum your house because the neighbors can hear it and stuff. Like Sunday is a quiet day in Germany.
Yeah,
I can appreciate that.
It's nice. I don't know. Usually Tamara use it to cook a big nice meal and just take the day real easy. Sometimes we go flea marketing, but it's been cold and shit like that. We're just waiting for that German springtime. Y'all are going to be opening for the Meteors.
Yeah, March 16th and now 17th. Just announced.
That's
we just got added to the 17th show. So
I saw that email. It was like they were already asleep, and I was gonna come up the next day, and I saw that email come to the ARKHAMS like flash on my screen. Yes, I did that. So I was like, you know what? You don't get Meteors don't come around that much, and it's such an opportunity. I'm like, no way anyone's gonna want it.
So I saw him in Oakland.
Good thing we didn't have anything booked with Lara Hope and the Arkhams already.
Yeah, exactly.
But Bobcat and I are also, we've also worked on refining like a duo version of the Arkhams that we can do that we only played we did your birthday this year.
Yeah, my 40th birthday.
But
that was fun. It was like a duo. I couldn't get the harder, faster songs. But the mid-tempo, which is a lot of our set.
Well, the fun thing is you can do with the harder, faster songs is kind of swing them a little bit. Did you ever see Metallica's version of the Four Horsemen when they did it acoustically and it just swings the whole time?
Yes. Yeah, because it's hard to play on. It's hard to play that fast.
Yeah, but you can swing it.
Nowadays, we're just talking about Larian's Flask.
Yeah.
Trampled by Turtles. They play really fast and aggressive.
Right. Yeah.
They play shit probably faster and heavier than most metal bands. Yeah. And that's only because, their acoustic guitars are more closer to their craft, closer to their instrument.
Right.
That you have to play that speed. I'm thinking of Trampled by Turtles. I just listened to them. But Larian's Flask is another band. A lot of these, what I call the Muddy Roots style bands.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Muddy Roots.
Mm-hmm.
Arkham's never played Muddy Roots, yet our song Worst Enemy that we just put out,
definitely.
This is like that fast drummed acoustic guitar. Sounds to me like those Muddy Roots style bands, how it's, American folk music played even, at breakneck tempos. It's not bluegrass. It's more of a darker thing, which is, obviously what West End sounds like, and what a band like Larry and Flask or Trampled by Turtles sound. Well, how faster and heavier than most heavy metal bands, and their lyrics you can make out because music is not like, drowned out by a really loud band.
Right. And like I said, you can, the stuff that's 30-second notes, you can always cut that in half and swing it.
Yeah. You can always cut the time down, or cut the. So many of our songs, I'm like, I don't know, I'm addicted to that feel of, a song like Insane or Valley or Worst Enemy, how it's got to be that tempo. It will never feel right at any slower tempo.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tempos that we played it at last night. Last night we played, especially those three.
That's funny too, yeah, because some songs have slowed down as we have aged. But last night I feel like, I feel like last night we were actually playing stuff like pretty damn fast.
Pretty close to the way we sounded 15, 20 years ago.
Because I handed Joe the recordings from then, and it was just like, just practice these songs. And, he comes in just like.
He came prepared. Joe came prepared. He learned the songs. He learned, the intricacies. Screaming George.
And last night he brought his double kick pedal, and it sounds killer.
Yeah.
Screaming George last night. At I'd say maybe 90% of that tempo. It still felt good. It's on our second album, Valley. It's kind of like even though it doesn't have the Bo Diddley beat, it definitely has the Bo Diddley feel.
Right.
Yeah, not every song. I'd say at most 10-15% of the songs on Bo Diddley full-length albums have the Bo Diddley rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a Bo Diddley feel that we definitely have on the studio recording of Screamin' George. And Joe came last night, and then we added this middle section where I just, instead of me doubling the riff that Matt plays, Lara doubles that riff. And I play this it's what is it? It's a 9th sharp 11. I know you're a music theory buff. You would get a 9th sharp 11 chord.
That's nice and dissonant.
It sounds sharp. And I don't even move it. It's the most anti-guitar song. I don't play guitar songs. We play instrumental breaks. And this is the most anti-guitar song. I'll just play triplets over his bass riff. And then, like, halfway through, Joe joins me on the triplets, and it sounds crazy. Meanwhile, Matt and Lara are playing straight ace. Joe and I are playing triplets over that. And then we stop, and we start the third verse of the song. And it took what was a standard instrumental break into, a really dynamic. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of Reverend Horton Heat's Baddest of the Bad.
Okay, where it goes into black metal out for like 8 bars.
Yes. Not quite there, but that part in Baddest of the Bad when it gets so dissonant.
Like I said, it's essentially black metal.
You hear it like before Us and the Gallows, who our two bands embrace that dissonance.
Yeah.
That was the most dissonant psychobilly record up until that point. You hear Baddest of the Bad. All right, so this verse, then he plays a guitar solo, then goes another verse, and then how he transitions out of that instrumental break is like, it becomes a different song. It takes you out of it. You will remember hearing that.
Yeah. You're like, I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, okay, well, this is fast. It's getting faster. It's okay. This is almost like Emperor. Okay, now we're back to the train beat. I like this.
Yeah. I love that song because of how and it's also preceded by Big Sky, which is
and that's just one of the best. I don't know, one of my favorite modern rockabilly instrumentals.
It's Psycho,
Psycho rockabilly,
it's a psychobilly instrumental.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
And I hear Big Sky, and I'm like, okay, it's 3.5 minutes, so it's on the longer side of what a song, I think, to me, songs are 2.5 minutes. But it's on the longer side, but it's interesting the whole way because it constantly changes the theme.
Speaking of metal, off topic, have you heard this band? Zeal and Ardor?
I haven't. Zeal and Ardor. Okay.
Yeah. They are phenomenal. They're from Switzerland.
I'm going to have to give it a listen.
And, yeah, dude, like, they like, seamlessly go from, like traditional blues and, kind of stuff and, like, chant kind of stuff into straight up metal in the same song. And it's just, it's so interesting.
It's a double album too.
Yeah, this is one of their older ones, but
I'm definitely gonna have to give that a day in court.
Yeah, doesn't that look like a Beatles thing?
Yeah, it looks like an apple with a bullet hole.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah,
I've been like every day.
They are. Yeah, I cannot recommend this band enough. But
for the last 3 months, I gave up eating all sugars, and my thing now is I have one fruit a day. It's usually an apple, and I'm like, an apple. I haven't had that. You know what I mean? When you give something up, really, really miss it. You're like, oh. Then you see that bullet hole. You're like, all right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I listen to a lot of metal in my my free time.
Same.
Like for playing a lot of roots music. I still listen to some, but yeah, it's like a lot of people are like really immerse themselves in the music that they perform. And I just don't. Yeah, I want to start a metal band, but
I like to perform it all. The thing is you don't get an opportunity to perform it all. But my music, what I listen to, changes literally. Genre changes from minute to minute with feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to like music I can't make too. Like I listen to like Balkan brass stuff all the time.
Industrial.
It's like, I just have to,
Yeah, and you just sit there and you're like, man, I wish I could put this band together. And then you think about everything that would take to make that, and you're like, I'm just gonna keep playing my guitar at home.
Oh, you got to remember, trying to find brass players who aren't in a million different that's impossible. Long Island, I can't even find. There's probably 3 people who play guitar, but one of them is the manager and designer, can never take off. That's the thing between being a manager and an owner. He manages the local diner with me, never take off. Another one has kids. He can't. Nice to see him once a month.
Yeah.
Another one has multiple kids. Nice to see him once every 3 months. And they're the people that I make music with on Long Island, but how frequently can you make music with them?
Yeah, all you can do is just shift what you make to be able to contour to the ability that you've been given by personnel surrounding you, I suppose.
That's like me. I was thinking about it more and more. I'm like,
the scenes sometimes just get created, just based on like who's there and what their skill set
and
is.
If they can be in 4 bands instead of 3. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and you don't have to play the same thing band to band to band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and you should evolve. You should add different elements to to different songs to make them all sound.
Yeah, and I mean, I love using one genre as a vehicle to like jump off into other stuff, and that's what music is anymore. Really, it's like we're almost in like a completely post-genre world. I think there's even music now that calls itself post-genre, which I feel like that should be like obvious. You shouldn't have to say that. But still, it's like fascinating concept, and I'm all for it. I love the hybrids of music that have happened over the years, and I mean it's happened for years. It's
rock and roll is a hybrid of rhythm and blues.
Like that's the story of music.
That's one of the things that I like about.
I don't like. Yeah, I mean, I don't like it sometimes when people are like super traditionalist about it, and it's like there's a time and place for that. Like if your event is, like super nostalgia based specific thing for one thing.
99.5% of the time. But what it is people want to hear that fusion of style.
Yeah.
And sometimes like we're completely misunderstanding the past and what they did and their styles.
One knows.
So like we can't possibly recreate that.
And
so it's always gonna be different.
And the recordings are such poor quality. A lot of these songs, when you listen to the lyrics, I didn't realize this until I started working at the studio with Steve Rosen. Once I played him some songs, he's like, you know what they all got in common? There's all more distortion on the vocals than your ear can pick up.
Blowing out that analog mic.
Oh, the analog mic, the analog gear, there's more distortion to the point where my PA system for the one-man band, I'm putting on a distortion and delay pedal for the vocals. And it's part of my sound. If you listen to my two records, I'll link to you if you want. Distortion, I mean...
Well, they're on the streaming
stuff. They're on
Bobcat.
Spotify.
It's just Bobcat. It's not
actually
not one-man band.
Let's go ahead and...
Well, let's do an image.
Yeah, let's segue real quick. Hold on. So actually, speaking of the stuff that both you and Matt make, right now is a great time to plug any of that. Do you have any websites and addresses that you want to get people to? And the name of the video game you were on?
Well, the game is called Wet.
W-E-T. It was on PS3 and Xbox 360. Yeah, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 3. It's a couple years old,
14 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it exists.
Yeah.
Websites. Let me think. The ARKHAMS have a Facebook page.
Well, we technically have a website, but it just links to our Bandcamp page.
That's fine.
So we basically have a Bandcamp page, but
my website's bobcatmusic.li, and we're on all social media. I mean, the ARKHAMS got a YouTube channel. We got Facebook. We don't have an Instagram yet. We don't have a Twitter. We don't have
www.thearkhams.com is the link to our Bandcamp. Basically,
Bandcamp. I've not mastered using it, but I know it's actually the best of the streaming platform.
And you play with Lara as well. Lara Hope.
Bandcamp has some stuff that is not available. That's not out on like Spotify. There's at least a few songs that are different. And then you can always find all of my other stuff at larahope.net. www.larahope.net. That's LARAHOPE.net.
They just put out an album. Was it pre-pandemic or just post-pandemic? During, as we were all like shutting down the world.
Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to talking with Lara about the new single too.
Yeah.
So, man, it just seems like not only you two, but also you and Lara and everybody's just cranking out some really good stuff, and being able to take the experience and the different musical influences and finally start to get to the musical maturity we all have, where we can just take and blend it all and say we really don't care about sticking to these traditional guidelines that we're supposed to, because we have all the different influences that we want.
Educate me. What's traditional? Because the guys playing, the blues and country music in the 1920s were not thinking tradition.
Exactly.
They were thinking, okay, how can I get my idea out to the people? Yeah. Same thing with every genre. How can I get my idea out?
I mean, Les Paul was trying to sneak in jazz licks with Lawrence Welk.
Yeah. I love the way Les Paul plays. Do you think he's another guy who layers the crap out of this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that the bass on those records, even the drums or the percussion, is all just him playing muted guitar? The bass he has these are like the analog pitch shifters. I don't know how to do it myself, but there's analog pitch shifters that bring your guitar down 2 octaves.
Yeah.
So that it sounds like bass. Now there's digital pedals that you can do with. But, in Les Paul's day, it was just analog. He would just slow the tape down. Yeah, so it sounded like a bass. And then he also sped it up. You hear those really high guitars.
Mm-hmm.
That's not him playing super fast. No, that's just him playing a lick and speeding it up.
Yeah, he did a lot of tape tricks that we learned about. And then Danny Gatton was like, tape tricks?
He was not a multi-instrumentalist. The way we think, we think of a Les Paul recording, you hear nice, lush, layered, all different instruments. No, it's just him with his Les Paul electric guitar.
Oh man, this is a subject that I think that we'll definitely have to do another episode on, and we'll just literally have to talk about the history of, I don't know, I suppose modern recording techniques, how Les Paul engineered so much that we use.
He invented it all.
It'll be such a great episode, man. I really can't wait for that one. Thank you all so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Dude, it's been so fun. I just wish I was there to see that Meteors show.
Yes. Well, we'll broadcast. We'll record a couple of songs that we that for sure.
Cool.
I don't know about the Meteors stuff, but
yeah. Well, you gotta get their permission, but yeah, I get that completely.
Yeah.
Well, y'all.
I've been
Thank you.
Posting on YouTube and Facebook. I learned that when you do a live show, it's always good to, because you gotta remember, most people are not in the city that you're playing in.
Right.
Certainly at the venue. They might be at work. They might be they might be watching their kids. They might be doing something around the house.
They had to work late.
Yeah, they gotta work late. They're at work. But, they take out the phone and say, oh, hey, the ARKHAMS is streaming. I know those guys. Let me tune in and see what this is about.
Right.
Cool.
Or even if you're not streaming, it's recorded and they can be able to experience it later on, because you prefer the crowd to not be filming, but when you have cameras set up to film, you'd be like, look, y'all party, we got this, y'all can see it on the camera if you want to later on, but in the meantime, let's have an intimate moment here.
That's how I prefer it. But I mean, if all the people who filmed with their phones, self included sometimes, if we all posted those videos more often, like, it would be awesome, we just don't. I don't know why.
I post whenever.
You're good at it.
Whenever I'm at a show, I'm like, hey, if I'm enjoying it, other people will enjoy it too.
Yeah, my wife's the same way. She'll just get like a clip, like a 30 to 45 second clip, or right when the band is really cooking, and then she just puts her phone away after that.
And as long as you post that, that's awesome.
Yeah. Because also it helps the band get promo too,
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, that's what I did on my recent mini tour with Burke Boland and with the Imposers and Diablo Gato. I told them, hey, I'm going to be recording this. I'm going to be posting this to social media. I'll tag you, And it's like, hey, people found Diablo Gato through my postings. They found Brooke Boland.
Exactly.
No one knew about these guys before.
That's
not no one.
Really?
Not no one, but I'm not saying no one, but not of these people.
It didn't hurt.
No one on Long Island who listens to anything resembling what I do will, know about Brooke Boland. I post it, and next thing you know, people from Long Island, oh, who is that? And I was like, oh, that's Brooke Boland. He's a one-man band from Erie, Pennsylvania. He's awesome. He has originals and, and he does some covers. Same thing with Cookie Cutters. I played them. They had a band about 10 years ago called Lords of the Highway, and Give Me That Shoe. The new project was something unique to that, and it's like, oh look, I know those guys. They played in other bands.
Lords of the Highway were amazing.
I love Lords of the Highway. Their new project, Give Me That Shoe. It's very groove oriented.
You have to definitely shoot me a link. It's always cool to see, the old musicians we know that were in one project at one time that we really fell in love with, and then they go and start another project, and the whole comedy just repeats itself. I can't thank y'all enough for being on. Thanks for hanging out, and we're gonna have to do this again.
Yeah, totally. I'm glad we finally did it. Thanks.
Yeah, I hope that it's absolutely packed to the rafters for every gig that you have, and I can't wait to hear the new stuff.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, y'all stay safe, have fun, and I'll chat with you later.
Cool. Good to see you, Skip. Thanks.
Good to see you, Skip.
All right. Love y'all. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
All right. That'll be all for today. Remember, peace, love throughout the world, and don't forget to rock and roll.